Howdy, mates. It's hump day. Hope all of you are doing fantastic. So, I wanted to do a new table talk that I haven't done in a little while. So, just a little surprise for all of you. So, this video, I actually want to cover a little bit about soil properties, because I think this is a new general topic that I want to start talking about in my talks, is in regard to soil. So, we're going to start with soil properties. So, in order to have such properties that I will discuss in a moment, you have to have 4 different things, or components. They include minerals, organic matter, water, and air. You have to have 4 of those, which are very important. So, without further ado, let's get into the actual properties. So, the first property that I want to discuss is in regard to soil structure. This basically refers to how the soil is composed, like how well does it keep itself together. And usually this has to do with the the mineral content in the soil and how much organic matter is within the soil too. So, for instance, if a soil is lacking the parts of the topsoil, it would be reasonable to say that that particular soil would have poor soil structure, and then vice versa. So then that will tie into the porosity of the soil. I know, a bit of a fancy term. The way how I like to think of porosity is it's rather holy. Basically, porosity, it helps define like how much movement of water and air can go through the soil. And in a way, it ties into permeability as well. So then, after considering the porosity of the soil, we got to talk a little bit about the chemistry, which is actually very important to know. So typically, minerals that make up organic matter usually are negatively charged atoms or ions. And then you have some examples of nutrients that are positively charged ions. A great example could be ammonium, for example. So typically, when both of these attract together, that usually helps keep the soil intact. However, here is another issue. So other nutrients such as phosphates, which is like PO3 4 minus, or it might be 3 minus, and then nitrate, those are negatively charged compounds. And so whenever rainwater comes through, there's potential that, more leaching can happen. And leaching basically refers to the loss of a nutrient that could be within the soil. So in a way, this leaching actually ties in to algal blooms that happen. Might have to be a whole separate video on that subject, but it does tie in. So then, last but not least, you also have your color. Color is basically an indicator of health. And soil can come in a variety of different colors, including brown, red, even yellow or white, and sometimes even blue, which is surprising to me. And usually, if the soil has a white color to it, or even the blue, as I mentioned, it usually indicates poor drainage. so not a good thing. But if you have like a brown soil, well, that is a good thing. So then, after all those properties that I discussed, all that is usually determined by something known as soil texture. And usually the soil texture refers to the minerals that make up the soil. So for instance, you have your three main minerals, which include sand, silt, and clay. And in that specific order, sand is the largest mineral, and then clay is the smallest. So I actually want to show you guys something that way back in my days of when I was in FFA, when we actually did some soil testing, came in handy. The USDA actually has something called a soil textural triangle, which is extremely handy. So I actually want to show you guys something. So for each mineral that is listed, which has all three of them, they're based on percentages. So I just want to show you guys how you can do this. So let's say, for instance, you had, 40% of sand in your soil. So usually you would want to mark a line. So give me a second. You would want to mark a line that goes in that direction, as you can see. Yeah. So then, let's say you had, let's say you had 20% of clay, which is all the way down here. See that? So that will go, I know this is so tricky. That will go all the way across. See that? It will go across in that direction. And last but not least, you have to consider your silt. So let's say you had 40% silt in your soil. Okay? So for silt, it all goes down in this direction. So at some point, all three of the lines will converge with one another. So the dot is where all the lines converge. So in this case, you have loam as a type of soil. So it's fairly easy to use, but you have to know the amount of how much minerals or of each mineral is in your soil. A great way to do that is use a mason jar, shake up your soil that you have. You have to let it settle, and typically you have to measure the length of how much, because there's usually 3 distinct layers, or there could just be 2. It just depends on what is within your soil. But the point is you have to measure how much there is of each mineral. You have to do some calculation, and you're usually able to get a percentage. And usually they are supposed to add all the way up to 100. So, alrighty. So that's all I really have at the moment. I hope you guys learned something in the video, because to be honest, soil is one of my other favorite subjects to study, because it is one of our most important aspects that make up our planet, because if we did not have it, we would not survive. So, alrighty. Hope all of you enjoy your wacky Wednesday, and Journey on a Journey is out. Take care, folks.